Welcome, fellow badass. My name is Tanya Wilson, and I am crazy passionate about supporting you. Yes, you! The amazing, ambitious woman who is ready to call her own shots and create a life and business that you truly adore. Our conversations are real, raw, and all about getting shit done while keeping sane. We chat about our wins, losses, business, relationships, family, and how to get the hell out of our own way, believe in ourselves, those really big ideas, and execute. I'm your new hype girl, and I can't wait to see what you create. So come on, let's get inspired and learn something new today. Welcome to the Ladies Kickin' Ass podcast. Today, welcome back to another episode of Ladies Kickin' Ass. And today I have a super awesome guest with me. Her name is Tabitha, and she is an insurance guru of all sorts that I want to bring to you guys because I know everyone has no effing clue what they're talking about on their insurance shit half of the time. I feel like all of us have been, I don't want to say duped, but duped at some point of like, you need this, you need this. And in working with Tabitha, I know this for a freaking fact because when I started working with her, I was underinsured on pretty much everything that we had. And had we had a issue with any kind of accident, any kind of auto thing, we'd have been screwed. So this is a very, very, very important part of your business that you have to pay attention to. I know it's kind of like one of those things that sometimes you black out, like financial things, because you don't understand how it works. You just love the work, but you don't understand how it works. So this is something that we want to talk about today. I'm sure this could go into probably 5 episodes because there's so much shit to learn. But we're going to talk about kind of some overview questions of stuff. But first of all, I want you to meet Tabitha. So tell us about yourself and why you chose to be in the insurance industry.
Wow. I have been in the insurance industry now for a little more than 10 years. I have worked in everything from the medical field to the legal field. And you know, I was kind of in between positions at one point, and I pulled up a Craigslist ad that said, come interview for our amazing job and earn financial freedom. And I had no flipping clue what that meant, but I thought that I met all of the personality requirements. So I said, hey, why not? Let's give this a shot. I went in and it was 150, 200 people in a room, and I'm like, oh my God, they're all here for this position. What is this? But financial freedom, very young mom, 4 kids, I was kind of drawn in. Mm-hmm. So I went and I got my insurance license and I started selling life insurance. Not an easy thing to sell. Nobody likes to talk about death. Super important to have though, guys.
Yes.
Not just for you, your family, but also as far as like a business perpetuation plan. Like who are your key man employees? What's going to happen if they pass away and you've got to replace them? What is that going to cost? So I did really well in that industry, but I was working in an environment that the structure wasn't what I wanted it to be. So I went back into law because it's what I knew. It was easy, super good at it. But then that little bug in my ear just kept saying, financial freedom. Guys, I'm not financially free by any standpoint 10 years in, but
you're getting there.
I'm getting there, yes. But I have amassed a wealth of knowledge and I'm extremely good at what I do. About 7 years ago, I transitioned and I went from a captive agency working for State Farm. Awesome, gained lots of knowledge. But I wanted more. So I went into becoming an independent agent and working as a broker where I have multiple different agencies or carriers that I can work with. And so I don't just have to fit somebody into one bubble. I have multiple bubbles I can go after. And that ensures that my clients are getting the best rates possible, the best coverages possible. We're not leaving anything on the table. And it's been an awesome career. So I love it. Love helping
Excellent.
everybody, and I love showing them all the ways that their current agency fucks up on a daily basis.
And she's very good at that too. Very, very good at that. One of the things that I was drawn to, first of all, we have very similar personalities,
Yeah, a little bit.
which I have never, ever, ever experienced in the insurance agency. I have a new accountant right now that is very our personality type person
Ooh.
too. And I'm like, that's also really hard to find. I'm finally finding my people.
I see tacos and
Yes.
more drinks in our future.
Yes. Yes. So it's very important, one, that you have a connection with the person that is going to be handling this kind of, it's truly a business strategy for you in insurance to make sure that you have the right things that you need. So if shit really hits the fan, you're covered with things that you need to have. And you need to be able to talk to somebody about those things. Like, this is a worry that I have, Tabitha, or like, I don't know what the hell this is. Can you explain this to me? Or should I just got this huge audit and I don't know what to do,
Sure.
you know? You've got to have somebody that is willing to work with you on that. So first and foremost, my advice is find somebody that you truly enjoy. I know this is kind of weird, but my divorce attorney, when I went through my divorce, was like, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. And I said, all right. So I'm thinking like he's trying to give me some like marital guru advice or something. And he's like, don't ever hire a professional ever again, because I hired a really shitty attorney at first. And he's like, don't ever hire a professional again that you wouldn't want to sit down and have a drink with.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just have that personality. And if you try to find somebody that's just uptight and stuffy of these things, he or she is not going to serve you well.
Right.
And ever since then, like, that's such a random piece of advice. But I was like, it's such a true story, though, because you are at your most vulnerable with a lot of these professionals that you have to hire because you don't know what you don't know. And so that's why you're hiring them, is to help you with that.
Yeah.
Yes. So accountants, insurance, financial planners, people like that. Like, I don't have one person on my team right now that we haven't had drinks with. And I finally feel like I'm covered and you have your squad around you. So
you can sleep at night.
Yeah.
And then your business is going to be standing tomorrow.
Yes. And if you haven't had, like, another thing too, like, if you haven't had your insurance reviewed for a long time, that is something you should be doing on an annual basis anyways.
Every 6 months.
6 months.
Every 6 months. Because contracts come up that we might have not expected at the beginning of the year when we guesstimated, we got busier. And do you want to get stuck with that at an audit? Or do you want that extra premium now broken into the next 6 months? What's easier for your business to maintain, right? Nobody likes the big bill. Everybody likes the monthly payments, right? So we advise everybody, let's touch every 6 months. We don't necessarily have to meet in person. I know everybody's busy, but it could be a quick email. Hey, just checking in. Here's the exposures that we had. I know it was 6 months ago, so just refreshing your memory. Do we need to add on any equipment? Do we need to add on any autos, any drivers? Is your payroll lower or higher than we originally expected it to be?
Oh, that's a big one.
Where are we at? So all of that stuff is a potential risk. And so if you wait a year and I haven't talked to my insurance agent in 5 years, he just renews my policy.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. I've done that too.
Like, it blows my mind because annually at your renewal at the very, very least, but because I'm different, every 6 months we're touching. We always say in the insurance world, we love the clients we never hear from, right? Because those are the most profitable for us because we're not expending our time on it. However, they're not getting the educational piece that they need, which means that they are more open to claims or they don't understand how their insurance policy works. So there's a lot of different caveats. So if you're not calling me, I better be calling you every 6 months just to make sure.
And making sure that you have somebody that is doing that and is watching your back for you and isn't just selling you something and then disappears.
An account that earns you commission.
I've had insurance agents in the past that once they have sold me an account, sold me a policy, I never hear from them. Sure. In fact, with my junk removal business, I just received an email from a guy that I had an insurance policy with 3 years ago. on the truck insurance.
Yeah.
And he was talking about wanting to get together for a renewal on it. I'm like, dude, this business is closed.
And I had the business.
You had the business anyway. So like, that's how much he was keeping track of the people that he had, that he's sending me out a renewal notice that had already been closed. I only did 1 year of insurance with him anyways.
Right.
But he didn't even know.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. It's super crazy. So I want to jump into terminology of what all of these little acronyms and things like this that we hear floating around about insurance actually means. So I'm going to start with some of these and then give me a brief description of what these things mean, and we'll just go through a couple of them. Cool?
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So what the hell is GL?
GL is general liability. Think of that as bodily injury and property damage for something that you screwed up.
So
right?
What's an example of that?
An example would be, this just happened in a claim recently in my office with one of my clients. It was a guy soldering a pipe, and the ember floated up and ignited the insulation in the attic. One little ember, and set the entire 10-unit apartment complex on fire. That's general liability. That's bodily injury. If he would have hurt somebody physically, if somebody would have physically been injured because of that fire. But the big thing was the property damage. So not just to the structure of the apartment building, but all of those units' personal property, their beds, their clothes, their toiletries, all of that is property. So that is what your general liability is there to protect. There's sublimits to your general liability that you'll see on your policy, like products and completed operations. That will protect you in the event that you're done with a job, but they might come back 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now and say, well, you screwed up when you were on the job and now we're having an issue with it now.
Right.
It just didn't come into fruition until now, right? Advertising. How many of us have websites? So what happens when you duplicate something and somebody else says, hey, that was mine and it's trademarked? So there's advertising injury that goes along with it. Medical payments coverage. It doesn't count for you or your employees, but it accounts for, you know, your guy was working and he left something on the ground and somebody tripped over it. And he sprained his ankle. He went to urgent care. He's fine. We don't want to file that under like a general liability claim. It's less than $5,000, $10,000. We can file it under medical expenses, which is going to be a lot less cumbersome in the long run when we're looking at your claims experience.
Okay.
So it's going to be less costly for you.
Yeah.
And then there's damage to rented premise. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize that they have or that they even need it, but it's automatically included on all general liability policies. If you are renting or leasing a building and I
leave
like
a candle
candles,
running.
Right? I leave the candle on in my office all the time.
Guilty. Done it before. They call and say, it smells real good in here, but we went into your office and the candle's almost gone. And I'm like, oh my God.
Or my thing is my space heater. I'm freezing all the time. All the time. And
2 out of 2.
I'm like, oh my God, what if I left that plugged in and it started a fire?
Yeah.
Right. So like, that's the first thing I do when I'm packing up is unplug my space heater. But what if I forget? Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cover the damage to the actual premise you're renting. And I know that sounds weird, but what if it burns down your building and then the fire jumps and it burns down the building next to you? Whose responsibility is that? Yours.
Yeah.
So that's the damage to rented premise. So not only did you damage your premise, but now your neighbor's premise.
Right.
Right.
Because the rental insurance from the place that you're renting from would cover the building damage, correct?
The structure.
This one, the structure.
So that would be on the owner's policy, not on yours.
Not on ours.
You don't own it, so you shouldn't be insuring the structure. Okay.
All right. So because we're sitting in my rented office, is there, like, on my insurance policy that I have, does it cover anything with this building? Like, let's say a fire starts in this building and all my computers and all my stuff is in here.
Sure.
Does our insurance...
Yes.
You want to make sure that you have that coverage.
So that's going to be on a property policy.
Oh, okay.
So it can be in a package. So
Mhm.
general liability with property coverage, with inland marine, that can all be condensed into one policy, just different coverage lines.
Okay.
But property is going to be, if you own the building, it's going to cover the structure.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's really important. It's going to cover everything within that property. I use the analogy as if I was to take the roof off and dump it upside down, what's going to fall out?
Ooh,
So
that's
it's
good
not
to know.
permanently affixed. The sink is permanently affixed, right?
Right.
It's not going to cover that. But it's going to cover the computers, the hardware, the software, the toilet paper. It's going to cover any inventory that you have, materials that are being stored to use for a future job site. So all of those things are covered under business personal property. And that is something that I find underinsured constantly because people think it's just their computers, or people think it's just their inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always a big problem. For instance, gas stations. Think about the amount of inventory they have in their convenience stores.
Sure.
That's a huge issue I'm running into right now. I'll see that they only have $10,000. And the guy's like, no, I have $300,000 in business personal property between my inventory, my POS systems, my refrigerators that aren't permanently attached, the soda machine. All of that is encompassing under property coverage.
Oh, okay. See, we're learning all kinds of stuff here. So let's talk about this is something when I am working with people that are starting up in-home service. Okay. So when I'm coaching people doing this, they say they are using, let's say, handyman. Okay. Because I'm working with this guy that's starting his own handyman business. He has a truck. Okay. He's personally bought this truck.
Yes.
And now he is using this truck for his business.
Correct.
But he has personal insurance through Geico on this truck. But he's using it for business. What do you do in that situation? And why do you need to have professional auto insurance versus just what you have with your wife on your vehicles?
So most people don't read their personal auto policy from cover to cover, right? It's like 200 and some odd pages. It's all kinds of legal jargon. Nobody understands it, right?
Right.
However, if you go to your personal auto policy and you look for all the exclusions that's in there, one of those exclusions typically is going to be for use during course of business operations.
Oh.
So say this person is on his way to a job site, leaving a job site, running an errand for the business, and he blows a light and injures somebody. And he calls Geico to file under his personal claim. And he goes, yeah, I was heading to a job site. Sorry. We're not going to cover that because we don't have you insured commercially. We have you only utilizing this business for personal use, and that's it. So that's a huge problem. I hear that all the time. Oh, I've got my vehicles insured with State Farm. They're so much cheaper. Sure. Yes. I guarantee that your limits with Geico or on your personal policy, whatever carrier that is, probably going to be, let's go with 100, 300,000. Commercial policies are almost always at $1 million. So that's why it's going to be cheaper because you're insuring it commercially. You're driving more. You're on the road more than you are when you drive your vehicle personally.
Sure.
You're going from location to location. Most service industries have multiple job sites that they have to touch during a day. So there is a bigger exposure to an accident or a claim of some sort. So in the event that your personal coverage does cover it, and that exclusion isn't on your policy, which most of the time it's going to be, what are your limits to protect you? And if you don't have enough coverage on your personal policy, where is the rest of that money going to come from? Yeah. Well, now that person that you injured is coming after you civilly, and they can go after your business. Doesn't matter if your business is an LLC. None of that matters, right? All that matters is you have assets, 401k, life insurance dividends, your kids' 529 plans, your pension, anything that you've amassed, your savings, your checking account, whatever it is, they can attack it.
Wow.
So that's why it's important to always have your vehicle insured properly, not only on the personal side, because I deal with that all the time too.
Yeah.
That's why our limits are so high, and especially in Arizona, because nobody carries the proper rates.
Yeah.
And then they get into an accident and they go, what do we do now? Because there's not enough money for it.
Why do you think that, like, saying that, I know everybody that's listening to this isn't in Arizona, but I'm sure other states struggle with this too. Why is everybody so damn underinsured? Because
Cost.
do you think it's the ability for them to kind of like, what's the cheapest shit I can get away with?
Yes. So when we start out, I look at my son who's going to be 19 this year, right? He's on a budget. He works full time. He goes to school full time, but he's got to pay his car insurance. I just want the cheapest available because he's not educated. Well, he is because I'm his mom, but most 18-year-olds are starting out, and even 30, 40, 50-year-olds that haven't been properly educated on their limits or how it protects you. They don't understand. So they just say, I just want the cheapest thing. Well, let's be real. Everybody wants the cheapest thing until there's a claim, and we want all that money could buy, right? But that's not, they don't always go hand in hand, right? We hear the saying all the time, you get what you pay for. And that is extremely accurate in the world of insurance. I don't want you paying more than you should be paying or need to be paying, and I'll try to remarket you or look at other carriers that might have better rates or deals going on at that time, or I can put more credit on the account, whatever it is. But if you are not educated, and so take Arizona, for instance, the minimum liability that you have to drive in Arizona is $25, $50, $15. So let's think about that. $25,000 for bodily injury. What that means is I rear end somebody. That person that was injured in that accident has up to $25,000 to utilize for their medical expenses. Bodily injury, right?
So that goes away as soon as the ambulance shows up.
Correct. 10 years ago, we used to say you can't get out of the ER for less than 5, right? And think about the inflation costs and all of that.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So what's the next number? 50,000. Well, there's 2 people in that car. So now those 2 injured people have up to $50,000 to utilize. What happens when they exceed that amount? I've been in 3 awful car accidents here, none of which is my fault. I have an awesome license plate that says I'm an insurance agent. I swear to God, it's like people's target to hit me. But
maybe you should take that off.
But say, for instance, one of those guys' medical bills was $50,000, and the other person's medical bills was $50,000. Well, they only had $50,000 total. Yeah. So where's the other $50,000 coming from? All those things that I mentioned before, the checking, savings,
come after
the business,
you personally.
all of your assets. And then what's that $15,000? That $15,000 is property damage.
Okay. What
happens when you hit a Mercedes?
It's way more than $15,000.
A Tesla, and the batteries in the back. So it's almost always any rear end accident is typically a total loss. And they just paid $150,000 for their Tesla Plaid. Yeah. And you have $15,000 in coverage. So scary. You're screwed. Yeah. Right? With inflation and the chip issue and rental cars being very limited, and with used cars being at an all-time low, those rates just keep going up and up and up and up. So $15,000 does not go nearly as far as it used to go. Yeah. So when that happens and all of these people have these low insurance rates and they cause all these accidents, and when lawyers become involved, then it hikes up everybody's insurance rates because the insurance companies have their reserves depleted. And people, I hear it all the time. I've never been in a car accident. Why are my rates going up? Because maybe there's a higher percentage of accidents or claims in your zip code. Yeah. Maybe you're driving a Hyundai or a Kia right now, and those are hot ticket selling items because there's some stupid TikTok video going on right now. that everybody's stealing Hyundais and Kias, and there's like literally a TikTok on how to steal them.
Are you kidding me?
No, I am not.
That makes me laugh out of this whole thing. Like, not laugh. That was a bad thing. It kind of makes me laugh. In a very sad way. But I have a Kia Optima, okay? Mm-hmm. It's a 2018 Kia Optima. I've had it. It's been paid off for a long time. Whatever. Yep. I have this car. 18, 14. I don't know what it is. I think it's a 14. It's old, right? It's got like 150,000 miles on it. I just keep the car because it's like the runaround spare car that everybody can use here when there's shit's in the shop, you know? Or a teenage car that's coming up because I'm going to have those kids coming up here pretty quick too. Yes, no kidding. So that car to insure is like, I have a 2022 Ford Bronco, and the Kia to insure that thing isn't much less than insuring the Bronco is, which that Kia has always been expensive to insure. Yeah. Why? Where do they come up with these rates based on these things? It is more expensive to cover the Kia than my husband's 2020 Chevy Silverado.
So let's think about that. Your 2020 Chevy Silverado or even your Bronco is going to have more safety features than your 2014 Kia, right? Maybe it has the side airbags. Maybe it has the lane assist. Maybe it has automatic braking. So all of those things are safety features built into the vehicle that's going to make it safer on the road, right? However, when you have something that's older, I mean, think about a hot rod. They sometimes don't even have seatbelts in them, right? So whereas your truck is going to do more damage if you were to hit somebody with it, theoretically, than if you hit somebody with your Optima, one might have more safety features than the other one. But every single carrier has an algorithm. I call it the secret sauce. And as much as they think that agents know the secret sauce, we don't. Okay, every carrier is a little bit different. That's why you can go from Geico to Progressive to State Farm to Allstate to Pekin to Secure, whatever, Liberty Mutual. And every single quote you get is going to be exactly different for the exact same car, the exact same drivers.
That's interesting. Right? I've always wondered how that works.
So and personal insurance is very different than commercial insurance. I can add credits and get different rates for commercial insurance. I can't do diddly. Like what you see is what you get. Like what I have for you, that's it.
Sure.
So State Farm, for instance, might say that your driving record is most important to them, followed by the age of the vehicle, followed by safety features. Whereas maybe Safeco will say the age of the vehicle is more important than your MVR or the age of the vehicle or whatever it is. So every carrier rates things just slightly different, which gives you slightly premiums. Everybody has a baseline. So that 2018 or 2014 Kia Optima is going to have a baseline with all carriers. It's how they rank you in your algorithm with what's important to them at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's ups and flows. So I might quote you and say Travelers is the best option for you. Then Travelers has a huge rate increase. And then I go, okay, well, I remarketed you because I can do that as a broker to Safeco. But when I quoted you with Safeco 2 years ago, their rate was higher than Travelers because they change these algorithms constantly.
It's like marketing. It's like search engines. It's like everything else.
Right?
Okay. Here's another question for you. Workers' comp insurance. This is something the service industry struggles with. I struggle with this before I met you. I still have questions. We just talked about that before we got on here. It is workers' comp insurance in a service industry professional's mind is when I get employees, I have to get workers' comp insurance. It's the law to do this. Okay.
In Arizona.
Great. If I'm an excavator and I'm the one doing the work and I don't have any employees, whether that's W-2 or 1099, which we're also going to talk about the difference here. But I'm a solopreneur. I'm doing all the shit. Do they qualify to get workers' comp insurance? Can they get it? Because I'm going to tell you from experience, when it was just me and my business partner at the beginning of when I started my septic company, when I had a business partner, we were going the traditional route of looking at stuff. But the insurance agent that I had at the time said, I can't get you health or workers' comp insurance because it's owner operator. You guys don't have any employees. So you have literally unlimited risk factor because you could be working at any hour during this 24-hour day period. That's how it was explained to me. So for years, we didn't have workers' comp insurance until we started hiring people. Well, it was about a year and a half later. Then we were like, okay, great, we can get workers' comp insurance. But a lot of times they say, do we include the owner in this?
Sure.
And should you be included in that? I know that was a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
So just give me your rundown of workers' comp.
Okay, so in the state of Arizona, if you have one employee during a year, okay, whatever your policy period year is, not your fiscal year, not your January 1 to December 31st, whatever your policy period year is, okay, you have either a part-time guy that just came and helped you on a job. Well, it was your job to provide them workman's comp insurance. If that guy would have gotten hurt during those 3 hours that you hired him and went to the ER and said, I got hurt by, because I was working for Tanya or was working for in service industry for whatever business, you are responsible to indemnify that employee's health. You have to get them back to where they were a second before they were injured. Okay. If you don't have workman's comp, you're getting paid out of pocket. If you don't have workman's comp and they told the hospital that they got injured on the job, then they file it with the industrial commission, and the industrial commission knocks you because they can fine you. They can put a tag on your license that you have with the ROC because you didn't have the proper coverage. That is state law in Arizona.
Okay.
So I hear this all the time, and you brought this up a second ago, that 1099 or employee or subcontractor, whatever the case is. I hear all the time, well, I don't have any W-2s. I only have 1099s. That's great for your tax purposes, right? You're not paying employment tax on it, whatever. However, the insurance standpoint on that is if your 1099 does not have their own workman's comp or general liability or both coverage, you are responsible for insuring them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this 1099 could potentially be working for 5 different companies at once. If he doesn't have his own workman's comp, then his payroll, attributed for his job and your business is counted as an employee. Okay. Now, in the event that under workman's comp, he's a one-man band. He's a sole proprietor. He's a subcontractor that's coming in, or he's a 1099 that's coming in, but he doesn't really feel the need to carry workman's comp because he doesn't have any employees. He can sign what's called a workman's comp sole proprietor waiver that says, hey, Priority Pumping or whatever business I'm working for is not responsible for me if I get injured on the job. Okay. Caveat to that is not every insurance company is going to accept it. There is an Arizona revised statute. It's basically a litmus test. They got to check all of the boxes of what classifies them as a sole proprietor. If there's 10 boxes and he only checked 9, guess what? That waiver is thrown out and the payroll is then attributed to your workman's comp payroll. Whatever classification they did. Excavation, painting, masonry, carpentry, it doesn't matter. Okay. So let's talk subcontractors, right? A lot of the people in the service industry have subs. That's awesome. There's a big risk that comes along with having a sub because the contract that you have is between you as the business owner and your client, not the subcontractor. You should have a contract with the subcontractor, but that's something completely separate. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
So in the event that your sub screws up, who's getting sued?
We are.
You are.
Yep.
Right? If they have insurance, then you might be able to subrogate, which is a term to
maybe get the money afterwards.
Yeah. But there's never a guarantee in that.
A year later.
Sure. And then if they don't have insurance, then you're still on the hook for it, right? So there's a big risk that comes along with having a subcontractor. Most carriers won't even allow you to have more than 25% of your total sales as subcontracting cost. Okay. Because it's too much risk.
See, and that's so important too, because how the hell are you supposed to know that? That's a good nugget of info there.
What I've learned is that people in the commercial service industry, whether it be artisan contractors, whether it be retail or hospitality, whatever it is, they're really good at their job,
Yeah.
but they're really not great on the back end because I know what I know and you know what you know. I don't know how to excavate.
Yeah.
I don't know how to install a septic system,
Yeah.
right? But I know what I know. And
Yeah.
that's the insurance piece. And they think that just because they're licensed in something, they can do everything.
Right.
And there's caveats to every insurance policy. So it might say you can't do work on tract homes. You can't do more than 20 custom homes in a year. You can't work on hospitals or airports. And then I get a call going, hey, I was working at this airport. And I'm like, your policy excludes you.
So here's a good question with that. Like, how the hell are you supposed to know all this stuff without reading these 300-page documents? Or how often are you supposed to be checking with your agent on these things to make sure that you're covered?
You have to ask questions. And that's why it's so important to have that conversation every 6 months and not every
Yeah.
year. Sometimes operations change. Sometimes you're proposed to take on a contract or you want to bid on a contract. But you're thinking about it, and that's not really what you told your insurance agent you were doing in the beginning. Does
Yeah.
my policy cover that? And it's a simple email. Hey Tabitha, does my policy cover if I work at here, in airports or hospitals?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's a conversation we need to have. No, there's an exclusion that specifically says no hospitals or airports out of the appetite. Or it's, hey, I know that I told you that I don't do any tract work, but I just got a really good opportunity. It's really lucrative for me. Can I do it?
Yeah.
No, there's
These
an
are
exclusion.
conversations that people typically are not having. These are conversations that even with you as my friend in this insurance, it's knowing what questions you're supposed to ask.
Yeah.
Because we got an opportunity to bid grease trap pumping at the airport, which we didn't end up getting that. But that as soon as you said that, I was like,
Right.
how often? Because we have been called before too with hospitals that need to have interceptors cleaned
Yeah.
out. And it's things like that. Like on commercial stuff, there's so many different things that may have an interceptor that needs to be cleaned
Right.
out that you don't even think about. So making sure that you have that communication available with your agent, again, why it's so important to have a
Right.
proper person that you can talk to.
If
It's
it's
huge.
outside of your everyday operations that
Sure.
your insurance agent knows about,
Yeah.
then it needs to be a conversation. And literally, it's a 2-minute email. Like, not even,
Yeah.
like,
No.
it's 30 seconds typing out, hey, am I covered for this? And if you have a good agent, them doing the research, calling the underwriter, making sure all ducks are accounted for, that it's not going to harm you in the event that you do this work and it's not a specific exclusion of the policy. But you did ask me something that I want to touch on about owner-only workman's comp.
Oh, yeah.
So in the state of Arizona, we're known as an NCCI state.
Okay.
NCCI is the end-all be-all to workman's comp. They set the rates every single year, not your insurance carrier.
Is this like a what the hell is an
It's
NCCI?
almost so NCCI. There's several states in the nation that are NCCI. Some are states that are monopolistic. Some are states that have state funds that you have to go through.
Yeah.
Every state's a little bit
Mhm.
different. But Arizona being an NCCI state, if you have an operation that standard carriers, it's not within their appetite.
Mhm.
Excavation tends to be one of them, right? So we have you with a specialty
Yeah.
carrier that specializes in septic installation, so it covers that. But typically, a standard policy is going to have earth movement exclusions on there, right? So, like if
Mhm.
you're excavating and it
You hit a
something,
gas
yeah,
line.
then it's not going to be covered. And so we have to put you in a specialty area. But say we can a carrier or an agent doesn't have access to the broker or the carrier that we have access to
Mhm.
for that specialty market. They have to go to NCCI and say, I don't have any standard admitted carriers that will take this business. So what NCCI does is they pick 2 to 3 carriers every year where they say, sucks to be you. I don't care that you don't like this business, but you're going to take it.
Ah.
So Travelers is on the books right now, or Berkshire Hathaway, Berkeley Net.
Okay.
So in the
Was
event,
Copper Point one of those at some point?
probably at one point, so they kind of switch it up every couple of years.
Because I think we got assigned to one of those at the beginning for workers' comp.
So you go through NCCI, you have to show them that you've tried at minimum 3 other carriers to take your business and they've declined you because it's out of their appetite. In some cases, they might like the appetite. The carrier was like, "Oh, I'm good with the appetite," but maybe you've got a claim problem.
Yeah.
Right. And you have a high experience modifier, or you've got a frequency issue where you're not doing the protective steps to mitigate your claims. And so you're like, oh, so-and-so cut his finger, so-and-so bumped his knee, so-and-so sprained his ankle every month, right?
Yeah.
That's a problem. So now no standard carrier wants you because now you're a risk to them because they're going to be paying out their wazoo. Right. So you have to go to NCCI. And NCCI then goes and they attack the market and they say, okay, well, we couldn't find anybody to take them. So now we are forcing Travelers or whoever their direct partner is at the time to take the policy.
Yeah. We had this with our junk removal business.
Yep. So in this sense of having a sole proprietor needing work comp, sometimes it's required, especially in the commercial business. You'll get a contract that has all of their requirements and you have to provide documentation that you satisfy. Certificate of insurance. Got the GL, the commercial auto, the workman's comp, umbrella, professional liability, whatever it is. And they go, well, I'm a sole proprietor. I can just sign a sole prop waiver. Well, that contract provider might say, we don't accept those.
No.
You've got to have it. So that's when we have to go to NCCI as well. And we can get an owner-only workman's comp policy where the owner is included. We call those ghost policies, right? Because clients tell fibs all the time. Right? So, no, I'm a sole prop. I don't have anybody. And then he's got 15 subs on his list, right? And they don't have coverage. So he's trying to work the system. Everybody tries to get away with it.
Oh, I know plenty of people that are like that or have undocumented workers that they're like, I don't have to cover anything for them. That's a huge thing that we see a lot of in Arizona.
I've heard clients go, I just told him to go back to Mexico. And one of our carriers caught on to it. That he was literally telling his undocumented workers to go back to Mexico so he'd have to cover their work. It's crazy. And then, the industrial commission gets involved and things get really bad and you lose licenses and stuff like that.
Don't want to do that.
Shut down businesses. So everybody tries to game the system. So when you have a quote unquote ghost policy, they're ensuring kind of like what your agent said, but maybe not in the right words prior, where they're ensuring an unsurmountable amount of exposure.
Yeah.
Because you're telling them one thing, but if you have something else and there's a claim, they have to pay out. It's not, well, you were the only person on the policy. Your payroll was the only thing attributed. So we're not going to pay for employees. That's not how it works. So it's called a duty to defend and a duty to indemnify. So they have to, by law, pay out the claim.
Interesting.
And I've had some really fun work comp claims, and let's talk about those really quick because they're really fun. Okay. We have the slips, trips, falls, cuts, bruises, fall off the roof, whatever. We have those ones that we think about. Those are injuries. I heard a claim. It didn't happen to our agent, thank God, because I probably would have laughed this guy straight out of my office. But he had a boss that was yelling at him. And his boss was a female. And he filed a workman's comp claim because he could not get an erection.
What?
Because every time he wanted to be sexually active, he thought about his female boss yelling. And they paid it. They paid for him to have his little blue pills to be able to have an erection again under workman's comp.
Oh my God.
Another one was husband and wife working for the same company, but on different shifts. One's on the, first shift, one's on third shift. And wife starts having an affair with somebody on her shift. The husband filed a workman's comp grievance for emotional distress for the affair. And it was paid out.
What?
Yeah. Really crazy.
So you can't work at the hospital or the airport, guys, but you can have affairs and make money all day long.
Oh my gosh, we had some really crazy claims. We had a general liability claim, and this did happen in our agency where they were working a brand new subdivision. Subdivision is not open, right? They're still building the houses, they're paving the roads. This happened to be a contractor that had excavated a piece of land and literally had the cones and the whole caution tape. It was all blocked up. Subdivision not open. Well, this guy's stimulus checks ran out and he really needed money and didn't want to go get a job. So he rode his bike through the caution tape into the hole. And it's now, I think it's like a $200,000, $300,000 claim. Still ongoing. It's been like 2-3 years now. So,
Wow.
stories all of the time, but I just had to bring that up because those were kind of like, I heard those and I just couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. So workman's comp has the duty to pay out, regardless of what the claim is. Even if, I've got one right now, the claim just got moved to $275,000. And the funny thing is my client was going to fire this guy. And he wasn't working out. He wasn't doing his job. So she said, I'm going to give you one last chance. I'm going to make you a project manager. Project managers cannot go on job sites, or if they do go on job sites, incidentally, they are not doing the physical work. They're not picking up the hammer. They're not doing the job. They're just managing. Well, this guy goes and he picks up a 100-pound pot and throws out his back. Here's the funny thing is, the previous 2 days, he had been moving and is known to have back problems. So he hurt his back or shoulder or something, picking up this pot, and now it's $275,000 later.
Wow.
Pre-existing condition, probably hurt it while he was moving, and wasn't supposed to be on the job site, was going to get fired, and now he's getting paid like nobody's business. All his medical, paychecks every week. It's crazy. So not only do you have to be extremely careful of the people that you're hiring because it all falls back on you, right? And one of my favorite sayings is shit rolls uphill as fast as it rolls down.
I like that.
So, I mean, especially your business, right? So your employee screws up, you're on the hook for it. Right? My assistant screws up, I'm on the hook for it. Like, I'm putting out the fire, not my assistant, right? Not the guy that you hired to do the job. You might chastise that person, they might get disciplinary action, but the bottom line is they still screwed up and you're still on the hook for it, right? So it rolls uphill as fast as it rolls down, and you have to do whatever you have to do to protect your business. Along with workman's comp, if you've been in business long enough or you have enough premium, you develop what's called an experience modifier.
Okay.
This plays a huge part in your workman's comp premium. So you have your rate. Everybody has a rate. Every classification has a rate.
Right.
And if you think about how to calculate this, it's whatever your payroll is divided by 100 multiplied by the rate.
Right.
That's your base premium. Then you've got other stupid things like experience modifier. That is developed after you've been in business for 3 years or you have enough premium, and it's a number. It's either below 1 or above 1. Below 1, it's wonderful. It gives you a credit on your policy. Right? So you don't have a claims history. You've got good financials. You've got all this good stuff going for you, and say it's a 0.84. That's phenomenal. There's a formula to follow, but they're going to multiply that into your policy and they're going to deduct that premium from your base premium. So it helps you.
Awesome.
Now, you have guys that are constantly having claims, and workman's comp has had to pay out. The industrial commissions goes, or NCCI goes, here's your EMOD. It's a 1.42.
Yeah.
Now they're debiting your workman's comp. So they're adding considerable premium to your policy. Yeah. So people go, I'm working on an account right now. People go, holy crap. My policy went from 13,000 to 39,000. Why? My payroll is the same. Oh, buddy. you had an EMOD that popped. You went from a 0.84 to a 1.42. So whereas you were getting a nice credit, that credit is now gone, plus you have a debit.
Yeah.
So you went completely 180 degrees the opposite direction.
Yikes.
And it's hurting him where it counts. Right in the pocketbook.
Ooh.
Lots on workman's comp. I could go on and on for days.
Yeah, it's very important. Make sure you have good safety practices in place for things like that.
Toolbox topics, safety meetings,
Yes.
handbooks, proper PPE, all of those things that you invest in. And I know it's all money, it's all out of our bottom line. But at the end of the day, if it protects somebody from slips, trips, or falls, getting shit in their eyes, falling off a roof because they didn't have the proper harness, it is all protecting you.
Yes.
So.
And you see it so often that is not the case. I just drove by this morning on in my neighborhood, and there's these 4 guys up on this 2-story house. Not one of them had any kind of harness or anything on. And I was like,
Ladies and gentlemen, when
so
you think
interesting.
about
I'm going to talk about insurance this morning.
people, like I get calls for landscapers all the time. Landscaping is huge here in Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they go, I always, my qualifying question is, are you doing any tree trimming? Well, I mean, no. That's not my question. Are you trimming any trees higher than ground level? You need a ladder, or you're trimming the palm trees. Is that then you are not a tree trimmer? You are now an arborist.
Yeah.
And I see those guys all the time flipping up the tree
Oh,
and
yeah.
no harness or not a 2-man crew. And I'm just like, oh Lord, I hope I don't insure them.
Yeah.
Because they go, oh no, we just do landscaping, strict mow and blow. And then I see their website and they're up a freaking 30-foot tree.
Yeah. That's another thing too. As you are starting out your business, or if you have this business and you're not being honest with your insurance agent about what it is that you are doing exactly,
Yes.
they will stalk your ass. They will look at social
Yeah.
media. They will look at your website. With my junk removal business, I know we fell into that category of NCCI, and the people wanted to come out and meet us on a job and observe what it was that we were doing.
Making sure you have gloves, steel-toed boots, you've got eye protection on, you're not doing hazardous material.
Yeah.
Because what happens in junk removal, right? Like you pick something up, you get stabbed with a nail, you step on
Oh,
something.
yeah. People got hurt all the time.
Oh my goodness. Something flies in your eye.
You're carrying something and it slips. And I had somebody like cut their head open from that. So,
there's just a lot of things that as business owners, we don't always think about.
Sure.
Insurance agents.
Making sure you have all of your stuff. Well, this has been incredibly helpful. Super, super helpful. I know we could go on for days with this. We will definitely do another one of these because there's so many things. So if you guys have more questions about what you would like to learn about with that, that'd be a really good thing to do like a Facebook Live on.
Oh, yeah.
And do insurance questions because
anytime.
people have so many questions, even people that I work with that are like starting a business. They're like, well, what do I just always give like Vinny. I'm like, just call Tabitha. I know whatever, So Tabitha is available if you have questions about stuff, if you want to have your policies looked at, things like that. I will put all of her contact information in the show notes so you can reach out to her if you have any questions. If you'd love to see a Facebook Live or something like that, then definitely let us know. Shoot us a DM and we'll put that together so that we can answer more questions for you guys. But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much.
And if they do have questions, I'm happy. You forward them to me and I'm happy to shoot them a response.
Excellent. So my email will be in there. I'll put Tabitha's in there as well. So whoever you feel comfortable sending them to, just shoot them over and we'll answer your big burning insurance questions.
Personal or commercial.
Yes, before you have any other issues with that. And that's something too, like I just want to add on to that at the end. It's like what you have for personal insurance too, if you are a business owner, is so very important that you make sure that that stuff is taken care of. So I know that's something I need to work on and is definitely on my goals to do that. So in closing, I have one last question that I ask everybody on the podcast. So Ladies Kicking Ass is all about building a community of unique kick-ass women that are making an impact in their community and are very educational based, which we know you are. You've said it so many times in here and I love it. So for my final question, I want to know in your own words, what does the phrase ladies kicking ass mean to you?
Oh man, it means that we are just awesome. You know, a lot of us work in male dominated industries and we've broken through these glass ceilings that, so to speak, that, you know, it's so important that we all come together and we be that force. And especially like in my business in the insurance industry, it's so male dominated and 90% of my clients are male, right? Because women don't feel like they can be in construction or service industries. And I think it's really cool to see that we can do these things and we can break these ceilings and we can kick ass.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you for listening. Today's message was pure inspirational fire. I loved it so much. Hey, if you got a lot out of today's show and you think a friend of yours may love it too, please do me a quick favor. Screenshot the episode, post it, tag us at Ladies Kickin' Ass, or share the link to the episode. I'm here to help and support as many badasses as possible, and your generosity in sharing the show to your audience means the world to me. Don't forget to hit subscribe to be notified of all newly released episodes, because they're that good. And leaving the show a 5-star review is the ultimate expression of love. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook and we can chat further. There's also a link to connect in the show notes. Thank you for being part of our tribe. Now go kick some ass, lady.